Hi everyone, this is my run on Ancient Monsters Lufenia, which is Act 3 Chapter 2.1 in DFFOO global version of the game. And specifically, this is a no boss turn run. First of all, the start is actually very important. In terms of setup, I remove all of Serah's speed passives. The main reason is I want Ultimecia to go first. So I actually resetted the wave until I get a turn order where Ultimecia goes first. And also very importantly, both Terra and Serah gets a turn before the bosses act. And the main reason for that is so that I get to line up the turns and give Ultimecia one turn right before the bosses can act, as you can see on the turn bar here. I use a root call to activate Odin's blessing right at the start of the fight. Another alternative is to use Hope Call that can grant D-Shell. However, the drawback of using Hope Call is that it grants a framed Protect and Shell buff on your party, which will displace Serah's generic attack and max brave up, which you really do not want to do. So here on Ultimecia's turn right before the bosses act, I swap her out for the support Ultimecia, and I go into a rotation of EX into burst mode, and right after her burst mode I go into 1 LD followed by her Hells Judgement S2 and then finally her LD. And the main reason for that is I want to inflict Hells Judgement on both bosses with the support Ultimecia, so that I get to 6 frame debuffs total. You can also check out the video description to see the full turn rotation of the support Ultimecia that I used. So bringing in the friend Ultimecia early on has done two things for me. First of all, it of course allows me to delete the boss's turn, thereby preserving the no boss turn run. Secondly, and very importantly, it has landed a total of 6 debuffs now in the field, which will enable Serah to be at full capacity with her auras. At this point, I'm also very close to 79% health, and you need to keep a very close eye on the turn bar. The idea here is on Terra's turn, Terra's final turn before Ultimecia moves, you want to activate Terra's LD there. At the start of the fight also, I'm using all of Terra's additional ability to keep her Magicite stack up. You won't need her additional ability for the later parts of the fight because you'll be using her LD to upkeep her overhead buff. Okay, so this is Terra's final turn before Ultimecia on the turn bar. So this is where you want to activate Terra's LD. Ideally, I want to use her EX first, so that I can charge her EX with her free turns, but the priority here is to prevent bosses' turns, so I just go into LD. You want to use Terra's LD and bring the bosses to the 79% HP threshold during one of her 3 consecutive turns. And the reason for that is that I will be activating Ultimecia's burst soon, and the goal is to bring the bosses out of their cage turns during Ultimecia's burst. And you can easily achieve this if you manage to bring them to the 79% health halfway through Terra's 3 turns rotation. Okay, so I've hit 79% health. It took me a little bit longer than expected, and it happened on Terra's last turn. However, it is still good enough. As long as you can bring them out of their caged turns during Ultimecia's burst, then you're good to go after that. At 79%, the bosses will also cleanse all debuffs, and it's very important to try to stack debuffs as quickly as possible to maximize damage. For this reason, I use Gebrand Call. Gebrand Call allows me to have a 10% boost to HP damage from 79% onwards, because I will be using one call at 79% and a second call at 49%. However, Gebrand's Call only works if each bosses have at least 4 debuffs, so at this point the priority is to try to quickly stack debuffs as quickly as possible with the party. So here Serah has a debuff tied to her EX or LD, and because her EX isn't ready, I decide to use her LD again so that she can land her frame debuff on the bosses, bringing them to 6 total debuffs now. So Serah's auras is at full capacity, and I just need one more debuff to activate Gebrand's 10% HP bonus up. So using Ultimecia's S2 right at the start of the burst is mainly so that I can land the 4th and final frame debuff on the bosses, and because of this I now get the benefit of 10% HP damage boost from Gebrand, thereby giving a little bit of kick to Ultimecia's burst. During Ultimecia's burst, of course, the idea is to try to maximize Hells Judgement as much as possible. So I go Hells Judgement into LD, into EX, followed by 2 more Hells Judgement before I use her burst finisher. Okay, right after Ultimecia's burst has finished, she has 2 stacks of her overhead, which allows 2 free consecutive turns, and it's important to fully use this up before you pop her EX. So I just spam 2 more Hells Judgement with Ultimecia to use up her overhead, and then I go into her EX again, which allows me 2 more consecutive turns after that. So all of these consecutive turns with Ultimecia with her BT effect serves to delete the boss's turns, and if you look at the turn bar now, I now have a very large buffer of character turns before the bosses can act. So from 79% to 49%, I'm just looping around Ultimecia's skills to get to her EX as fast as possible. There's no need to be conservative with Ultimecia, and with this strategy there's no need to use her HP++ attack, so just use her Protean Swords to help charge her EX. With Terra though, it's very important to save her LD until you are very close to 49%. So the idea is the same again. You want to wait until the boss is about 55% HP and then only activating Terra's LD, with the objective of bringing the bosses to the 49% threshold halfway during Terra's consecutive 3 turns. Okay, so the boss's turns are about to come up, and if you look at the percentage HP that they have, they are also very close to 49%. So this is where you want to trigger Terra's LD a second time. Notice also that Ultimecia has a turn right after Terra, and you really want to pop the LD again on Terra's final turn before Ultimecia and the boss. So it's very similar to the 79% HP threshold strategy. So here I'm just popping up Terra's skills and bringing them to 49%. You really want to try to also bring them to the 49% HP threshold at roughly the same time, preferably the same turn, but if not, as close as possible, so that you can also bring them out of the caged turns together. At 49%, the Humbabas will cleanse all debuffs again, but this is also the final time where they will cleanse all debuffs. So at this point, I use all the remaining call abilities I have. So I use Jack's call to inflict his debuff, I use Gebran's LD call to inflict his debuff, and I make sure I also inflict Serah's frame debuff because it carries a 40% defense down. And you can do that either by Serah's EX or her LD. Okay, so this is Gebran's call. Okay, so at this point, you just want to continue to go all out with Ultimecia with her EX rotation, and again hang on to Terra's LD. The approach here is exactly the same as with 79 and 49% HP threshold, so I'm waiting for them to come to around 35% before I pop Terra's LD, with the objective of bringing them to 29% somewhere halfway through Terra's consecutive turn rotation. So I'm not quite at the 35% HP threshold, and because of that I decide to pop my summon here to buy me enough turns to bring them a little bit closer to the 29% HP threshold. Okay, so the boss will get a turn right after Ultimecia here, so I pop the summon. If Ultimecia's EX is ready, you actually want to try to pop her summon and use her EX, because the ensuing free turns will actually push the turns back and will then give you some buffer turns after summon has ended. Also, doing Ultimecia's full EX rotation inside summon is very damaging. As you can see, her Hells Judgement does 100,000 HP damage AoE, which is very nice, especially if you do it 3 times in a row as such. Okay, so I am quite close to the 29% HP threshold. In fact, one of the Humbabas has reached that point. I was considering using Terra's LD, but here if you look at the turn order, if I use Terra's Magic Meltdown Plus, due to the high turn rate, I get to actually push her turn up. So I decide to squeeze in one Magic Meltdown Plus before I use her LD. Okay, so this is really Terra's final turn before the bosses can act. So this is where I pop her LD. And then with the ensuing consecutive turns, it should be enough to bring them out of their caged turns. Okay, so the bosses are out of their cage turns. At this point, it is more or less a DPS race because I've used up all my turn deletion skills and my summon. So the idea from here on is to just try to put out as much damage as I can and kill off the bosses before they get their next turn. I also have one more of Terra's LD. So the idea here is to use her LD on her final turn before the bosses can act, which is right over here. And that's it. So was a bit tight near the end, but I managed to complete a 0 boss turn run. Hope this video has been helpful, and as always, if you enjoyed the content, do leave a like. comment or subscribe. It really helps a lot. Till then, I'll see you in the next Lufenia video. Bye bye.